Welcome back to our second video on developing a team and the reasons to have a support system if you're parenting a traumatized child. In the last video, we talked about the difficulty it is to have family, extended family, community supports, and if we all lack understanding about what's going on with our child, that criticisms can develop and we end up in a downward spiral and we isolate ourselves. I think one of the important pieces that we addressed in the first video that we'll bring out in this one as well is the child's belief system and how that presents problems that we aren't even aware of. So when we have these, our children with early trauma have a negative internal working model, and with that, they have three basic beliefs that we see all the time. The kids believe that
I'm bad.
and the parents
Caregivers are bad,
and the
and the
world.
world is a dangerous place.
Yeah.
But what they lead to is they lead to an inability for our normal parenting techniques. Okay, show them love
Mhm.
and
And we're disciplined.
show them consequences. Those two don't work.
Mhm.
Okay, they don't work. They don't produce the changes that we want in a child. And what we want to talk about today is a tendency for this situation to work out in our peer support system.
And so typically, when we get a foster or pre-adoptive placement, case managers in particular, there's some other treatment modalities that insist community activities. Our kids put them in community
Oh, it's a
activities.
checkbox.
That's
That, I can't keep going back to my superior without that checkbox check. Come on, it
right.
just has to happen.
So they may end up in soccer, Girl Scouts, Boy Scouts, in a wide variety of different activities. And at first, when we sign our kids up for these activities, they given usually have a chameleon type of
Hmm.
personality because they're in survival mode. They know how to go fit in, and they may be extremely charming. They may be funny, the class clown, whatever.
Hmm.
They'll come in, or you can get the shy little rabbits,
Hmm.
that come in
So
and
they
so
fit in the
timid.
beginning.
They fit in, and then they get in, and then all of a sudden, it's like, oh, somebody ate all the cookies, or why did you hit my son?
Yeah. And what that leads to, of course, is then you get these messages from peers, from the scoutmaster or the soccer coach or the other ladies at the soccer. It's like those little looks askance, like your son took all of the cookies and stuffed them in his pocket,
Yes.
and they look at you as if,
I said, hey, kid.
are you starving this kid or what?
Yeah.
What's the problem? So they become use up
Exactly.
messages.
They are. How many
Mhm.
times have any of our parents been pulled aside by a wide variety of people saying, "Let me talk to you about your child. These behaviors are going on," and we're like, well, "Yeah, what do you want me to do about it?" And it's you need to control your child. You know, you're not doing a good enough job as a parent.
And then the downward spiral of isolation begins. You
Yeah.
know, um, suddenly you're not invited to Joey's birthday party.
Yeah.
You know, the other families on the soccer team are, but your son is not.
No, and they're talking about how their kid is achieving this next award, or they're putting so many hours
Yeah.
into practice, and in your head you're thinking, I'm just happy that he stays in bed all night, then he gets up in the morning,
So you
and
don't have those shared experiences.
no, I can't talk
They're
about
your
my stuff.
peers, but suddenly you're not sharing the same parenting experience as them.
No, there's so many wild
Hmm.
stories that we as foster adopt parents end up telling because there's that safety within us that we can say, hey, where does your kid hide his poop? I'm sorry to say.
I was, I'm sorry, I was so late getting to practice because I had to clean up poop off out of the back seat of the car. And, the other parents, of course, not knowing, just look at you and, you know, what?
It's like the one kid, he had he was sitting in the back seat and he had duct taped his legs. And so when you get him to soccer practice, he has to take the duct tape off the bare skin.
And of course, then the other parents are looking at you going, why did you duct tape his legs?
Why did you let him duct tape his legs?
And now you're in a catch-22 because you have the caseworker telling you have to involve him in these
You do.
activities. And like you mentioned earlier, really, he may not be ready for these activities.
Now, that's something that our families, and this goes along with that education piece, where we really have to educate ourselves on the developmental delays that our kids
Mhm.
have. You know, as you've said so many times, he may be 15 chronologically, but emotionally, he's 6 or 7. And you send a 6 or 7-year-old out to play soccer with a bunch of 15-year-olds, he is not going to be on par.
And the difficulty is he's actually both.
Mhm.
He is that 15-year-old who does want to play soccer, but then when he gets scared, he reverts to the
You
12-year-old who
have
does those behaviors.
yeah, the regression.
So not only do you get this, as far as community activities, you get this pressure from the other moms and the coaches and stuff. You also get this pressure from your child, where he's telling you, I want to do this, but his behaviors are saying I can't right now.
Um,
And it puts parents in a terrible position. And of course, without thinking, a lot of times the answer is, well, I'll just avoid those
yeah,
circumstances.
yeah.
Um, and when that happens, you're on the road to the downward spiral of isolation.
Yeah, I'm just thinking at times, even if a kid is playing soccer and mom's trying to watch and things, and you have a caseworker show up, you have the guardian ad litem may come and watch if
Mhm.
the child's still in foster care, and you're signing off encounter forms or you're talking treatment plans and these. You can't even have a normal experience of watching your kid play a sport because, and we've seen it just even for billing's sake, professionals will come in. It's easy billing to show up for a soccer game.
And services will be thrown
Mm-hmm.
at the child. I mean, I remember therapeutic support staff were prescribed and sent to camps
Mm-hmm.
with the children.
Right.
And of course, then, moms come to visit and they say, well, who's that over there with Jimmy? And oh, that's his therapeutic support staff. That keeps him from behaving badly.
Yeah.
And of course, then you get that isolation. That contributes to, well, we're not going to invite him to the party. And
It
um,
is, yeah. To have that aid one-on-one support person with
mhm.
you is very hard for a child. They just can't be normal in
Yeah, if I invite him to the party, then I got to invite the support staff
that.
too.
That's
And I
right.
don't, we don't want to do that. He's a stranger. Now, as far as addressing this, is,
Hmm.
again, I'm going to repeat here, rehearse here. There's um, there's a lack of ability to talk and interact because the experience of parenting is completely different, which
Right.
sets you apart. Then there's the tendency of the other parents and professionals to to need to keep the children safe
Hmm.
from the behaviors that your child is doing when he or she gets scared, and that tends to push you away a little bit too. And
Hmm.
after a while, if you're not aware, you'll start to isolate. Now, as in the previous situation, where we were in their previous video where we were talking about families
Hmm.
and isolation from families, the first step is the same.
Hmm.
You need to educate
Educate.
yourself on how that early trauma is impacting your child. You need to have that argument
Hmm.
for the caseworker of why I can't put him in an age appropriate
Right.
activity right now because he doesn't maintain that when he gets scared. He drops down to his presentation drops down to
Hmm.
a lower age level.
Hmm.
You need to be able to sometimes, I mean, we've been very successful in our family-based practice of getting coaches
Hmm.
and other soccer moms in the treatment team so they understand what you're doing too.
Right.
So it's not you start off with the same thing, you're educating yourself, and then you use that education to educate
And
other people too.
yeah, and as you were talking, it made me think about one of the things that becomes very, very serious is if if we let this go on, the taking them to soccer practice, the behavior problems, the degrading looks, and the
Mhm.
the inability for our child to be invited to birthday parties and stuff, we're further traumatizing our child.
Absolutely. Every time they're pulled from something that they age appropriately desire to do, they unless they understand what's happening, it's a you suck message for them. It's a you're not good enough to do this thing you want. And that knowledge then gets transferred to their next attempt to do something new.
Yeah. With that, we're actually putting our kids in danger, other kids in danger too, if we keep pushing them into,
Mhm.
especially those physical activities where they could hurt somebody. Or, how many times do they come home with sneakers they just found in
Mhm.
their locker? And, charges can occur. We really have to look at why we are putting our kids in those situations and really will they have an opportunity to heal there? Or is this just something that the pressures from whether treatment teams or case managers are forcing on us? Well, with,
Absolutely. And of course, you know, as we said in the previous video, over the years we've developed a wide variety of products, written, video,
mhm,
um, trainings, um, that end up, instead of withdrawing from those other people who may be part of a support system,
right.
you train them, you educate them, and you find the ones that are trustworthy that you can ask, will you help me with this?
Hmm.
Will you help me provide these opportunities for my child, even knowing that they might not always be able to do it without support?
Yeah.
But this is what I'm trying to do. And when it's done successfully, it cuts down on those you suck messages to parents. It
Hmm.
increases the number of people that are possible in a support system because it vastly increases the roles that can be
Yeah.
played. Um, and it staves off the failed adoptions and
Yeah.
broken placements.
Yeah. These are really big topics, and parents have to take into consideration just very small things, whether they're
Mhm.
signing their kids up for Boy Scouts or Girl Scouts or any of those things. It's a big task, and we want to be encouragers to you all that you think clearly through each of these pieces and how you're perceiving. So,
Adult support team is a necessity. Don't walk down the road towards isolation.
if you watch for our third video in this series, thank you.